You need to calm down, my sister-in-law hissed, gripping my arm so hard I could feel her nails through my sleeve. You're making a scene at my baby shower. I looked down at my nephew. He was 8 years old, standing completely still in the middle of her living room, his face soaked, his birthday shirt. The one with the little rocket ships he'd picked out himself 3 weeks ago, plastered to his chest. He wasn't crying. He had gone past crying. He was just standing there, blinking slowly the way kids do when they've crossed some threshold of shock and don't know what comes next. My brother was laughing. His hand was on his stomach, bent forward a little, the kind of laugh you do when something genuinely catches you off guard. My mother-in-law, his mother, not mine, was covering her mouth with both hands, but her eyes were crinkled at the corners. Happy crinkles. My sister-in-law, Brooke, had handed my nephew a special gift box about 4 minutes ago. Inside was a confetti cannon rigged to a water balloon trap. She had designed it herself. She'd been proud of it. She'd told 3 people about it before he opened it. It was supposed to be funny content for her Instagram stories. The caption was probably already drafted. The part she hadn't mentioned, the part that apparently didn't matter, was that my nephew Eli is terrified of loud noises. Has been since he was 3. Fireworks make him hide under the bed. Balloons popping at birthday parties make him go nonverbal for 20 minutes. Anyone who had spent more than 2 hours with him in the last 5 years knew this. Brooke had spent Christmas with us for the last 4 years. I let go of her arm. I walked to Eli and crouched down in front of him. "Hey," I said quietly. "Look at me. You're okay?" He looked at me. His bottom lip was trembling, but he was trying to hold it together the way boys that age are already being taught to do, and that effort, that tiny, terrible effort, broke something open in my chest. "Can we go wash your face?" I asked. He nodded. I stood up and took his hand, and I walked him through the living room toward the hallway bathroom, past 15 women holding mimosas and small plates of cucumber sandwiches, past the balloon arch that spelled out Baby Brooke in pink and gold, past my brother who was still chuckling and shaking his head like this was a moment that would become a funny story at Thanksgiving. Brooke followed us to the hallway. "It was a prank," she said to my back. "He's fine. You're being dramatic." I didn't answer. I closed the bathroom door. I ran warm water over a washcloth and cleaned Eli's face. I found a hand towel and pressed it gently against his shirt, even though we both knew it wasn't going to do much. He was soaked through. I looked at him in the mirror while I dried his face. "You didn't do anything wrong," I told him. "I know," he said, but he didn't sound sure. "You got scared. That's okay. That cannon was loud." "Aunt Brooke said it would be a fun surprise." "I know she did." Grandma laughed. I looked at his reflection. He wasn't asking me why. He was just saying it the way you say something that doesn't make sense, turning it over, checking it from different angles to see if it becomes sense. It didn't. It wasn't going to. "I know," I said again, because I didn't have anything better. I had a lot of thoughts I couldn't say to an 8-year-old in a bathroom at a baby shower. I thought about the 4 years I'd spent making excuses for Brooke's humor, about the Christmas she gave my brother a gag gift that turned out to be a very expensive watch and gave me a gag gift that was just a gag gift, about the way she always filmed things right before something went wrong, the phone already up, already recording, positioned just right. About how my brother had never once in 4 years told her to stop. I thought about how Eli had been so excited to come today. He'd asked me on the drive over if Aunt Brooke would like the gift we'd wrapped for the baby, a soft knit blanket and a small stuffed bear. He'd helped me pick the ribbon. He'd been careful not to smash the bow. Brooke knocked on the door. "You need to come out. Everyone's waiting for the cake." I looked at Eli. "You ready?" He nodded, but he reached for my hand again when I opened the door. Brooke was leaning against the hallway wall. She looked annoyed in the specific way people look when they feel their event has been derailed, not by something they did, but by someone else's reaction to something they did. "Are we done?" she asked. "He needed a minute," I said. "He's 8, not 5. He's going to be fine. This is my party, and you've made the last 10 minutes about you." My brother appeared at the end of the hallway. He looked between us with the expression he'd been wearing for 4 years at moments like this, tired, preemptively sorry, already preparing to absorb whatever came next. "Babe," he said to Brooke, "let's just do the cake." "I'm not the problem," Brooke said. "Your sister is the problem." She yanked Eli out of the room like I'd actually hurt him. "You scared him," I said. It came out quieter than I expected. It came out quieter than I expected. It was a prank. He has a noise sensitivity. You know that. He needs to toughen up. The world isn't going to be careful with him. My brother put his hand on her shoulder. "She didn't mean it like that," he said to me, which was the same sentence he had been using for 4 years and which had never once been followed by anything that made it true. I looked at him. "Did you know about the cannon?" He didn't answer fast enough. "Did you know?" I asked again. "It was supposed to be funny," he said quietly. Eli's hand tightened in mine. I picked up my purse from the hook by the bathroom door where I'd left it. I got Eli's jacket from the coat closet. I helped him put it on, zipping it over his wet shirt because the drive home would be cold with the AC on. "Where are you going?" my brother asked. "Home," I said. "You're leaving my baby shower," Brooke said, her voice going flat and sharp at the same time. "After what you just pulled. You're unbelievable." "I didn't pull anything," I said. "I took a scared kid to the bathroom. You humiliated me in front of my friends." I thought about that for a second. I thought about Eli standing in the living room, soaking wet, not crying, that careful, terrible not crying, while 15 women watched and my brother laughed. "Okay," I said. We walked out. I buckled Eli into the back seat and turned on the heat even though it wasn't cold outside, because he was wet and I didn't want him to get chilly, and because doing something practical helped me hold the rest of it together for the length of the driveway. We stopped at a pharmacy 2 blocks away. I went inside and bought him a package of Reese's Pieces and a white undershirt in the children's section that was a size too big, but was dry and soft and had no design on it, nothing to be attached to or sad about. I helped him change in the back seat. He ate the Reese's Pieces with both hands and stared out the window, and by the time we got back on the highway, the color had come back to his face. "Are you mad at Uncle Derek?" he asked. Derek. My brother. I thought about the right answer. "I'm disappointed," I said. "What's the difference?" "Mad goes away faster," I said. "Disappointed sticks around longer because it means you expected something and didn't get it." He thought about this. "I expected Aunt Brooke's present to be a real present." "I know, bud. That's why I'm disappointed too." I merged onto the freeway. My phone was already buzzing in the cuff holder. I could see the screen lighting up without looking. My brother's name, then a number I didn't recognize, then my brother again. I drove. When we got home, I gave Eli a real shower and found him a pair of pajamas and made us both grilled cheese, which is the only meal that reliably feels like an apology from the universe. He watched cartoons and fell asleep on the couch by 7:30, worn out the way kids get when the adrenaline of being afraid burns off completely. I sat at the kitchen table and listened to my voicemails. My brother, first message, "Hey, call me. I just want to explain." My brother, second message, "Brooke is really upset. She's been crying for an hour. You need to understand that today was important to her and you made her feel like a bad person." Brooke, one message, she didn't leave one, but she had texted 12 texts, sent in a rapid sequence over about 20 minutes, ranging in tone from cold to furious. The summary was, I had overreacted. Eli was fine. I had publicly humiliated her on one of the most important days of her life. I owed her an apology. If I couldn't be a supportive sister-in-law, maybe I shouldn't be in their lives at all. My mother texted separately, "What happened?" Derek called me. "He says you caused a fight. Are you okay?" I stared at that one for a long time. Are you okay? Not, what happened to Eli? Not, is he all right? Are you okay? Which could mean anything, which in my mother's particular dialect usually meant, are you calm enough to make this easier for everyone? I typed back, he's fine. We're home. I'll call you tomorrow. Then I sat there and did not call her. I had been the good daughter-in-law for 4 years. I had smiled through the Christmas gag gift. I had laughed off the time Brooke accidentally shared an embarrassing photo of me from Derek's camera roll at his birthday dinner. I had listened to her critique my apartment, my job, my hair, my relationship with Derek from before we were even close, in the guarded, territorial way some people have of circling things they want to claim ownership over, even when they already have them. I had smiled and been reasonable and not made things hard for Derek, because Derek was my brother and I loved him, and I had not wanted to be the reason his marriage was complicated. But I kept sitting there seeing Eli's face in that bathroom mirror. Grandma laughed. I made myself a cup of tea and didn't drink it. I opened my laptop. I wasn't sure what I was looking for at first. I started with the text she'd sent, rereading it, and then I started rereading other things. Old text chains, emails, a few DMs going back almost 3 years. I told myself I was just processing. I told myself I'd feel better in the morning. Then I found it. It was in an email thread I'd almost forgotten about. 2 years ago, Brooke and Derek had asked to borrow money. Not a small amount, $23,000. They were renovating the kitchen of the house they bought and had gone over budget significantly, and their construction loan had fallen through at the last minute. Brooke had pitched it to me very specifically as a short-term bridge, 6 months maximum. They'd have a check in my hands by the following spring. I had given them the money because Derek was my brother and because $23,000, while not easy for me to part with, was something I could technically absorb if I had to. I had not asked for a written agreement because it had felt cold and contract-like to ask your own brother for a contract, and I had trusted him. That was 2 years ago. I had never seen a check. I had brought it up once, about 8 months in, and Derek had said they were having a tight quarter and could I be patient a little longer, and I had been patient a little longer. I had brought it up a second time about a year after that, and Brooke had been in the room and had said, very cheerfully, "Oh, we're so grateful for that. It's honestly still on our list," in the same tone she might use to thank someone for watching her cat for a weekend. I had not brought it up again. It had started to feel like something that had happened in another life. Money, I quietly decided to write off because the alternative was being the person who made things hard for Derek. I sat at my kitchen table at 10:30 at night, and I did the math. $23,000, 2 years, at even a modest interest rate, was a number that I had let become invisible. I opened a new document, and I started writing things down. Not out of anger, not yet. Out of the same instinct that makes you start cleaning when you don't know what else to do with your hands. I wrote down the date of the loan, I wrote down the amount, I wrote down the emails where Derek had confirmed it and promised repayment. I wrote down the 8-month mark and what he'd said. I wrote down Brooke's comment at 14 months. I pulled up my bank statements and confirmed the transfer. I had records of everything because I am the kind of person who keeps records not because I expect to need them, but because I work in accounting and it is simply how my brain is organized. I also wrote down today's date. I wrote down what had happened to Eli. I wrote down what Brooke had said in the hallway, word for word, as close as I could get to it. I wrote down that Derek had known about the canon, had been asked directly, and had not answered fast enough. Then I called my friend Priya, who's a paralegal and who has very little patience for what she calls sentimental financial arrangements. She answered on the second ring, which meant she was still awake and on her second glass of wine, which meant she would be honest. I told her everything, the loan, the shower, Eli, the texts. She listened without interrupting, which is not her natural state, which told me she understood this was serious. "Okay," she said when I finished. "How much documentation do you have on the loan?" "Complete," I said. "Email confirmation of the amount?" "Yes." "Him acknowledging it and writing it 8 months?" "Yes." "That's a civil matter," she said. "You know that. I know. You could file in small claims if it were under 10. This is outside that range, but it's not so large that you'd need a massive firm. Do you want me to recommend someone? I just want to think through my options first." "Okay, here's your options. You can keep being patient and wait for the money that is probably not coming. You can have a hard conversation with your brother and risk the relationship. Or you can stop treating this like a favor between family and start treating it like what it legally is." What is it legally? A loan with written documentation and no repayment agreement. Which means, depending on your state, you have a certain window to file before the statute of limitations becomes a conversation. I wrote that down too. "And the shower thing?" she asked. "I don't know yet." "You don't have to decide tonight," she said. "But Eli's okay?" "He's asleep on my couch." "Good," she said. Then the rest can wait until morning. She was right. I went to bed. I didn't sleep, not really, but I lay there in the dark and let the hours pass until they became morning. The next 2 weeks were a low-grade war of silence. Derek texted twice more. I responded once, briefly. I needed some space to think. I'd reach out when I was ready. He did not push. Brooke did not text again, which told me either that Derek had asked her not to or that she had decided her position was so obviously correct that my silence was its own kind of apology. My mother called on a Tuesday. She had spoken to Derek. She thought I should consider that Brooke was very stressed with the pregnancy and hadn't meant any harm. I told her I understood. I did not tell her about the loan. I had not told my mother about the loan 2 years ago either, because I had not wanted it to become a family issue, and now I was grateful for that restraint because at least this part was mine alone to handle. I met with an attorney named Mr. Ashworth on a Thursday afternoon. He had a small office near the courthouse downtown and a way of speaking that was completely without drama, which I appreciated. He reviewed the documentation I'd brought. He asked a few clarifying questions. He confirmed what Priya had said. "You have a strong paper trail," he said. "Email confirmation of the loan amount, acknowledgement of the debt at 8 months. Do you have the bank statement showing the transfer?" "Yes." "Then this is a straightforward civil matter. The question is what outcome you want." "I want to be repaid," I said. "Then you send a formal demand letter first. Most people respond to a formal letter without needing to go further. It signals seriousness. And if they don't respond, then we file." I authorized the demand letter. He sent it the following Monday, certified mail, to Derek's address. I know this because I sent it to Derek's address, which I knew because it was also the address of the house they'd renovated with my $23,000. Derek called me 40 minutes after the delivery confirmation posted. He didn't sound angry. He sounded scared, which was different and which I had not expected. "What is this?" he said. "It's a demand letter," I said. "I know what it is. Why did you do this?" "Because I asked you twice and nothing happened. You could have called me. You didn't have to get a lawyer." "I called you twice," I said. "The first time you said you were having a tight quarter. The second time Brooke said it was on your list." Silence. "I need that money, Derek," I said. "It came out steadier than I felt. I gave it to you in good faith and you kept telling me it was coming and it didn't come. I have it all in writing. I'm not trying to make this ugly. I just need to be repaid." "We don't have it right now." "Okay, then let's set up a payment plan." "That's not a lawsuit, that's just a schedule. Put it in writing, make the first payment, and we don't have to go further." Another silence. Longer. "Brooke doesn't know he started. "This is between you and me," I said. "I didn't copy anyone. The letter went to your address. How you want to handle the internal conversation is your business." He exhaled. "Why now? Why didn't you say something before now?" "I did. You weren't listening." I heard him set the phone down and pick it up again. "Is this about the shower?" "It's about $23,000, I said. "It's not about the shower." That wasn't entirely true. The shower was the thing that had made me stop being patient, but the loan was real on its own. The loan had been real for 2 years, quietly becoming more invisible the more I tolerated everything else, and I should have stopped tolerating everything else a long time ago. "I'll call you back," Derek said. He called me back the next day. He had talked to Brooke. Brooke had apparently not known the full amount, which told me they had not had an honest conversation about it in 2 years, which was its own kind of information about their marriage that I did not need to hold. They agreed to a payment plan. Derek signed the agreement. Mr. Ashworth drafted a simple 2-page document, 5 payments over 10 months. The first payment arrived by direct deposit on the date listed. I did not feel triumphant. I want to be clear about that. I felt tired and a little bit sad, the way you feel when something resolves in the way it should have resolved 2 years ago, and you realize how much you bent yourself trying to avoid arriving here. Brooke sent me a text the day after the agreement was signed. It said, "I don't know what you think you accomplished, but congratulations." I put my phone face down on the counter and made coffee. I did not go to the baby shower gift opening event she hosted the following weekend. I sent a gift through her registry, the most practical thing on the list, a set of white noise machines. I did not include a note. I thought about including a note and decided against it. Derek and I talked on the phone about 3 weeks later. It was a short call. He said he was sorry the shower had gone the way it did. He said Eli shouldn't have been scared. I said thank you for saying that. He said he hoped we could figure out how to make things work going forward. I said I hoped that too, and I meant it, because he is my brother and I have loved him my whole life, and that part is not complicated. What was complicated was the understanding I came away with, sitting quietly in my kitchen after we hung up, that making things work going forward was going to require him to make choices he had not yet made. That I could not protect Eli from the choices he didn't make, that the border between my life and their life needed to become clearer and more real, not out of anger but out of the same logic that makes you stop lending your car to someone who keeps returning it with the tank empty. Eli stayed with me for a long weekend about a month later. He helped me plant tomatoes in pots on the balcony and told me very seriously that they need to be watered consistently or they get confused. We made pancakes and watched 2 movies and took a long walk where he asked me 12 questions about whether worms have feelings, and I answered all 12 as seriously as I could. On Sunday evening, when his dad came to pick him up, Eli hugged me for a long time in the doorway. "Can I come back when the tomatoes are ready?" he asked. "You can come back whenever you want," I said. He nodded like this was a matter he had needed confirm. Then he picked up his backpack and went down the stairs, and I stood there watching him go, thinking about how easily children accept kindness when you just offer it without making them earn it. The tomatoes are almost ready now. I texted him a photo last week, and he sent back 3 exclamation points and a drawing of a tomato he made in art class, which he said was inspired by mine, though his had a face and mine do not. I bought myself a house in October. Not a big one. A small one, 2 bedrooms, a yard with enough sun for a garden that is more ambitious than balcony pots. The down payment came from money I had saved carefully over a long time and from the first 3 installments of the repayment, which arrived exactly on schedule. I did not tell anyone I was buying it until the closing date was confirmed, not because I was secretive, but because some things are yours to tend quietly until they're real. Derek sent a congratulations text with a house emoji. My mother called and cried a little, good crying, and asked about the neighborhood and the school district and whether the yard got afternoon sun. I told her it did. I did not tell her that the afternoon sun was one of the reasons I'd chosen it, because I had in mind what the garden might look like in the spring and also what the backyard might look like on a Saturday with a kid who knows a lot about worms running around in it, with no cameras and no Canon and no one making content out of his face. Some things you just know. You make the space and you trust that the right people will come fill it. I've thought about this a lot since everything settled down. Not the legal part, not the money. Those resolve the way things resolve when you stop being afraid of the paperwork. I mean the part before that. The part where I stood in that hallway with Eli's hand in mine and made a choice that felt in the moment like the smallest possible thing. I just walked out. That's all. I didn't scream. I didn't make a speech. I just decided that my nephew's wet shirt and his careful, terrible not crying mattered more than everyone's comfort with my presence in that room. What I've come to understand is that actions have weight whether or not we intend them to. Brooke set up that cannon. She thought about it. She built it. She positioned her phone. That's not an accident. That's a series of choices, each one pointing in the same direction. And Derek stood in the hallway knowing what had been planned and still made the easier choice, which was to laugh and hope it passed. Those choices had weight. They didn't disappear just because the party moved on to cake. What I did had weight too, not because I wanted it to, but because 2 years of absorbed slights, 2 years of unreturned money, 2 years of watching my brother choose the easier thing, that weight was already there. I'd just been carrying it quietly, which is something I think a lot of us do. We tell ourselves that patience is kindness, and sometimes it is, but sometimes patience is just fear wearing a more respectable coat. The thing about Eli asking why they hate him is that he didn't actually need an answer. He needed someone to stop moving toward the kitchen and turn around. That's it. He needed one person in that room to make his fear more important than the momentum of the afternoon. And what I learned from that moment, what I keep coming back to, is that intelligence without the willingness to act on it isn't really intelligence. It's just observation. I had observed Brooke clearly for 4 years. I had observed Derek's pattern clearly. I understood exactly what was happening. But understanding something and doing something about it are two completely different things, and for a long time I confused one for the other. Courage isn't dramatic. That's the part nobody tells you. It doesn't feel like standing up straight and giving a speech. It feels like picking up your nephew's jacket from a coat hook and zipping it over his wet shirt and walking to the car while people say things behind you. It feels like sitting at your kitchen table at midnight pulling bank statements. It feels like authorizing a demand letter when every instinct trained into you since childhood is saying, don't make things hard. What's right has a way of becoming clear when you stop trying to make it convenient. I didn't get the family I wanted from that house on the other side of town. But I got a small house with afternoon sun and a yard where tomatoes grow and a kid who sends me drawings of vegetables and the knowledge that I stopped bending the moment it started to matter most. That's not nothing. Honestly, it's most of what I needed.